It's Saturday, March 20, 2021, episode 169, Kid Roth IRA for doing household chores. This is a 39.6 Facebook and YouTube live finance show, the show that teaches high earners like yourselves how to make your money work for you so you don't have to work for your money. We discuss real estate, syndications, overall finance, taxes, investing, paying for childcare, paying for college, and even the car you drive. Today's episode comes from a questioner in our Facebook group. A question from the Facebook group. 39.6 community, please join it. My son has started helping around the house with basic chores. He accumulates very small earnings for toys and new games. It's cash in a piggy bank. At what point can I open him a Roth IRA? Okay. So, first of all, yes, our Facebook community, please join. If you haven't, please invite a friend. We are actually at 998 members today. We can easily be at 1,000 this weekend if you join or invite somebody. So I appreciate that. So this is actually funny because somehow our 3-year-old started getting paid and putting money in a piggy bank herself. So this is applicable. I have a nice little gold piggy bank. I've featured it in a previous episode, I think before, but I think it is in the nursery where our baby is right now. And I'd probably wake her up if I went and got it. So this is a good question. So the IRS actually has very clear information on this. Okay, so for a Roth IRA, you have to have earned income or spousal income that's also earned income. Okay, so you can have like a spousal Roth IRA. So let's pretend I make $12,000 a year in earned income. I would be able to do $6,000 for me and $6,000 for my spouse, even if my spouse didn't work. So it has to come from earned income. So then what is earned income? So earned income is money you earn at a job as opposed to like investment income, which is what you earn strictly from investments. So even if you make $6,000 a year just from your investments, you can't use that to fund a Roth IRA. You also can't use passive income from a rental property to fund your Roth IRA, assuming it's a long-term rental. If you're doing a short-term rental and you're putting that on Schedule C, that is a business and that's active income. So you could use that if there is net earned income from your short-term rental. Household chores are not earned income. Even though they have value, a kid's household chores are not considered something the IRS would categorize as earned income. I saw some comments like brushing teeth or eating vegetables. You could pay them to do those things to incentivize them if they are incentivized to do that. Whether I don't know if I would do those things, but let's pretend you did. That would not be considered earned income. Now, if they're doing basic household chores for being a member of the household, which might be fixing your bed, doing your own laundry, those are probably going to go as not earned income. Okay. But it gets complicated, right? Because there are chores and there are also things that you would certainly put a monetary value on and would pay somebody else for. So you could make a list of all the things and what things you pay and outsource people to do versus things you don't. And then you could say, well, I outsource everything. And then it gets complicated. But making your own bed's not going to pass the muster. So if you gave your kid 25 cents every time they fix their bed, that's not going to fly. Speaking of which, so our 3-year-old has a piggy bank, and this is hilarious. So recently, Grandma started giving her quarters. Okay. And so she's been excited to put these quarters in her piggy bank. which is great. So she's incentivized to earn money and save money. Okay, these are probably good traits. Haven't gotten quite to the investing portion, but that's great. And Brent Lacey actually made some nice comments on this question, and I know that he has a method with his kids. Brent, we need to do an episode at some point. He just did one with my wife recently, but so she has this piggy bank, and then the other day she tells Kate, my wife, she tells Kate, "Look, I have all this money in my piggy bank, and I don't even know if we know how to get this piggy bank open right now." And or she found money, and I think my wife said, "Put it in your piggy bank." And then she said something along the lines of, "Okay, go ahead and find more coins and put them in your piggy bank, or find more money and put them in your piggy bank." So she's a pretty sharp kid, even though she can't write her name at the age of 3 yet. That's a whole different story, because we had to do that for a school interview, or she did. But she went around the house looking for money. Well, I did that episode on like on the short squeeze, and I had like a whole stack of dollar bills. I had like $100 bills in a stack. And I often also just have stacks of like 20s, or not stacks like everywhere on the house, but like a stack of 20, so that if I am paying for a babysitter, I can just count off the hours and pay $20 an hour and pay them off if we're not using Venmo. So we usually have some petty cash in like a couple piles, and then we have a bunch of money, not a bunch, but we have other cash in our safe. And she also knows that. And she's like, she's like asking to get into the safe so she can find money. But she found the stack of dollar bills, and she put all the dollar bills in the piggy bank that we don't know how to open. So she's got like a bunch of money in there now. I need to go get another stack of 100 of singles from the bank, which I just literally use them for. I use them for these presentations. I use them for tipping and whatnot. But so she's got all these dollar bills, and yeah, she could probably put them into some sort of an account, but not into a Roth IRA. But what is earned income versus chore income? And that gets very, very gray. So when I was a kid and I was 14 and I wanted to make money, and I saw, well, our parents are paying for lawn care, and we had like a double lot, and it was a lot of lawn, way more lawn than we have. So like the second lot was just grass and an apple tree. And so I don't remember how much it was, but it was a good amount of money. It might have been like $80 a week, but that was mowing, edging, mulching or bagging, everything. So I was like, all right, can I do this and get the same money? Probably the quality wasn't as good, but my parents were good and let me do it. So I don't know how I funded the lawnmower. I might have saved that money up from like birthday and Christmas, or maybe took a loan from my parents to buy the lawnmower and the edger. Initially, I think it was a lawnmower and a weed whacker. And then after I made some money, then I self-funded into an edger, which I was really excited to buy because that was like $200+. And then I had nice professional edging on the sides. But then I was making money. And I know some friends who just mowed lawns, and they make a ton of money mowing lawns. If you did like 10 lawns in a day, especially if you lived in the nice part of town. And this is why, well, I'm not even get into today, but different people will pay different amounts for the same task. And so if you live on a block and people are paying $100 to mow a lawn, then you can make a lot more money. Okay. So I knew people who made a ton of money mowing lawns or caddying, and these are great ways to make money when you're 14 years old. But even though some people would consider mowing your lawn a household chore, a lot of people pay for that. So it's very easy to reasonably justify that as a non-chore job. Okay. Especially if it's somebody who's like 14, 15, 16 years old, that's an appropriate age to be mowing lawns. And a lot of people would make that into a business. If you have a 5-year-old mowing a lawn, that's probably not really going to fly. because a 5-year-old is not going to be able to start a business mowing lawns. However, a 5-year-old could start a business doing other things. I mean, obviously with help because they're 5, but like a lemonade stand, for example, walking dogs, picking up after dogs. Like you could go door to door and say, hey, I'm going to pick up your backyard, pick up all the droppings from your dog and come over once a week or twice a week to do it. That's something I would happily pay a kid to do because I don't want to go out there and pick it up. But yeah, it's a perfect job for a kid who knows how to do that because they have a job, they have a dog already and whatever. Or if my next door neighbor had a kid and they wanted to take Penelope out on a walk and pay going rate to walk our dog, which I don't know, $5 a walk or whatever it is. Yeah, I would very happily pay that. And then they could earn earned income. Taking your own dog for a walk, probably, again, that's like a regular part of being part of a family. I don't think that would necessarily fly as not being a household chore. Now, then there comes an exception where it comes to things, like babysitting. Okay, babysitting is very clearly a household employee job that is listed as a job where somebody can earn earned income as a household employee. So there's definitely value in babysitting. Childcare is very expensive, relatively speaking, compared to what it may have been 20, 30, 40 years ago. And there's a lot of value in there. I mean, people can go to college, leave college, and still make way more money nannying and doing childcare services because there's such a high value for it, especially when you have 2 working professionals. So we pay over $20 an hour for our nanny, plus payroll expenses, Medicare, Social Security, whatnot. So it ends up being well over $20 and very, very happy to pay it. So let's pretend you have a 14-year-old kid and you have a 5-year-old kid. Okay, so that 14-year-old can certainly babysit the 5-year-old. And in a lot of families, if it's summertime and you have those 2 kids and both parents are working, the 14-year-old might stay and babysit the 5-year-old. Okay, and you might pay that 14-year-old, you might not. But here, this is like a very clear value because that 5-year-old can't take care of themselves, right? And different states have different rules about what age you have to be able to stay home alone. But I think a 14-year-old babysitting a 5-year-old I think that's okay in most states. I could be wrong. And if you didn't have that 14-year-old there, you would definitely have to pay for a babysitter for the 5-year-old or some sort of childcare. And if both spouses are working, then there's definitely a value for that. There's actually that would be a justifiable expense for your flexible spending account for childcare. Okay. And I mean, we have that flexible spending account and we fill it up every year and we use it very quickly and it's all pre-tax. So in theory, you could, if you had an FSA for childcare and you hired your 14-year-old as a babysitter and put them on the books on payroll, and you're both working and you have another younger child, and especially if you had like multiple kids, let's say you have a 5, 7, 10, and a 14-year-old, and that's a lot of kids, but I mean, it's not uncommon for, teenage kids to have to watch their other siblings while their parents, or if they're a single parent family, while their single parent is working, trying to bring home money to take care of the household. In that situation, they might not be paying their kid and putting money into a Roth IRA, but it's not unreasonable. Now, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an accountant, I'm not any of these things, but these are things, between you and your person that you work with and what you want to consider. But it is a gray area, especially in how it's done. And I could be wrong about everything, so don't take my advice. But there are some things that I think very clearly are earned income. So if your kid starts a business and let's say they are selling lemonade, even if you're helping them make it, doing something like that Okay, walking dogs, picking up dogs' poop in their yards, shoveling snow for your neighbors, mowing neighbors' lawns. Okay, anything outside of your household, definitely they're getting paid for. That is earned income. Even your grandchildren, like if you don't live with the grandchildren and your grandchildren are working in your house, they are not in your household. They're not household chores. They would not be expected to do those things. Okay. And so absolutely that should be fine. But there are a lot of businesses. Modeling is very commonly used for physicians, especially if you own your own practice. I went to an orthodontist and yes, I think he had 7 kids. They have a big picture in their lobby of the whole family. I was like, wow, nine people in a family, and my business partner in my office also has 7 kids. But yeah, you could pay every single one of them for modeling, but then there's a question of how much you can pay them to do that. But certainly you can, and the more they do of it, the more it's used, the more they could potentially get paid for it. That's pretty commonly done. But yeah, there are a lot of ways that a kid can make money. If you are in a hot climate or just when the weather's hot in the summertime, you can just teach them very resourcefully how to instead of making lemonade, just go to Costco and fill up a car with all those little bottles of water, the Costco ones, and they're like, I don't know, 10 cents per bottle when you buy it from them. And you put them in a cooler full of ice and you go to somewhere where there's something going on, like a concert or some festival or a sporting event or whatever. And you sell them for $1 a bottle, ice cold. Like that's a great way to create value for other people. They get ice cold beverages at a place where it's hot and they might not have ice cold water readily available to them. I happily pay $1 for ice cold water when it's like 90 degrees outside and we're outside. And yeah, they could fill up a few coolers, make $100 in a day. Very reasonable thing to do, but granted, it does take time, effort to do it, but you can teach your kids how to make money, and you could teach them, how to keep track of all the accounting, how to buy, when you're buying the stuff, wanting to get them at the cheapest price, and then the cost of literally ice, where are you going to buy your ice bags from? If you have a Buc-ee's next to you, you can get a big, huge bag of ice, I think for 99 cents. Other places it might be $4, or you might run it off your refrigerator and fill up the coolers the night before, loading it a little bit at a time as your refrigerator makes more ice. But when you need a lot of ice, it takes a long time to do that. So you can teach so many lessons with a very simple task like that, which I think, lemonade stand is cute and great, but bring that lemonade stand to the place where you got big crowds of people and it's hot and your lemonade's ice cold, and you have basically you can scale it up. Then there's like some legalities of where you can do this and whatnot, but whatever. Just a conceptual idea, and it teaches so many lessons. Okay, lastly, the tax ramifications of doing this. If you're paying your own children to do something, what's nice about it is that you don't have to pay FICA tax. You don't need to pay Social Security or Medicare. Okay, whereas you would be paying those taxes if you hired somebody else to be a household employee. If you hired a nanny, we pay our nanny Social Security, Medicare. For your own children, you wouldn't have to do that. Okay, so that saves you on that side. That can be significant. And you also don't have to pay federal unemployment tax, FUTA tax, up to a certain amount per quarter or per year per kids. And these exemptions for children can be up to 18 or 21. And they actually increased them to 21, I think, recently. And as long as their income is less than the standard deduction, they won't have any tax liability at all. They won't be paying federal tax. You don't need to withhold any federal tax from them. They're not going to be paying Social Security or Medicare. So basically, you don't even have to run payroll for them. You can just pay them checks, keep track of all the checks you pay them, and then you just give them a W-2 by January the following year. And they can file their tax return. And if their income is less than a certain amount, then you don't even have to do that. But filing a single W-2 tax return is this 1040 EZ. That is like a 15-minute tax return on paper. It's just so easy to do it. So I would just do it, submit it. There will be zero tax liability. And then you have IRS documentation of that earned income. Granted, the W-2 also counts, but then they have a tax return on the books. And then you just write a check or just transfer into their Roth IRA. You can do this once a year and up to the amount of whatever their earned income is on that W-2. And that's it. Pretty easy. Opening up a kid's Roth IRA, not necessarily available everywhere. You can certainly do a custodial IRA at places like Vanguard. Sometimes you have to do them like on paper because they're not really set up to do them online just because there's not so many people. But you just set it up once and then it's taken care of. All right. It's early, so I don't expect many people in the chat. And yeah, not surprising. Okay. So that's it for number 169, Kid Roth IRAs. You have more business ideas for your kids. That's pretty exciting. Let me know what they are. Put them in the comments. Reminders. This is brought to you by the Multifamily Masterclass. We are now open for enrollment. I'll put a link again up on our Facebook group on this post. And a lot of people have joined, or at least friended me in the past 2 weeks since the White Coat Investor Conference. Because I didn't even speak at this year. I didn't actually apply this year. But I'm going to have to put something over there, bring people over here to this group. And please, again, put your questions in the Facebook group and I'll try to answer them. Until tomorrow, have a great Saturday.